Okay, so as we wrapped up photosynthesis, the energy conversion was from solar energy to chemical energy in the form of glucose, C6H12O6. Now, moving on from there, there's a couple of options. Glucose is the sugar necessary for the production of ATP energy, and if organisms use oxygen, then they'll be moving on to what's called cellular respiration, or it might just be referred to as respiration. If oxygen is not available, then that organism will move on to fermentation. If an organism has oxygen and can do cellular respiration, they will produce a whole lot of ATP. So we're talking around the upper 30s. If organisms do not have oxygen and they have to do fermentation, they're going to end up with 2 ATP. So fermentation is really a waste of glucose because only 2 ATP are created compared to 36 to 38. But some organisms, that is their only mechanism for the production of energy. Um, some organisms can do both, like we can do cellular respiration, that's our primary method of ATP, and in a pinch or a bind, we can also do lactic acid fermentation in our muscles if we are in oxygen debt, like if you're running the mile or if you're mowing your yard. So we're going to look really briefly into cellular respiration um, and where that occurs. So cellular respiration is going to use the glucose and oxygen from photosynthesis to create ATP energy, and that's the energy that you are using right now to breathe, to move, to hold yourself up. And then as byproducts, we also produce carbon dioxide and water, which will keep the energy cycle going. This process of cellular respiration does require your respiratory system. So when you think about the word cellular respiration, you should be thinking about breathing, and what you breathe in is oxygen. So oxygen is a necessity for the cellular respiration. It does occur in the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. So this is where energy is converted from a chemical form of glucose into the usable form ATP. So the glucose is brought into our bodies through the digestive system. So when you eat something that has glucose in it, you're bringing that into your body. So it goes through the process of digestion. And then the oxygen comes in by way of the respiratory system. Now, once that process has been completed, and the process of cellular respiration is a chemical process, just like that of photosynthesis. So here we can see the unbalanced chemical equation. One glucose molecule along with 6 oxygen. So we eat, we breathe. That's going to yield 6 carbon dioxide, 6 oxygen, which we're going to breathe out, and a whole lot of ATP that we will use to continue to keep us alive. So this carbon dioxide and water is exhaled. So I'm going to attach a little video that you can look at the respiratory system. But exhaling, we all know what that means. We're going to breathe it out. So this is not, this water is not a metabolic waste that we would associate with urine. This is going to come out with the carbon dioxide when we exhale. So when we're looking at our lungs here, we can see our lungs, bronchial tubes, the bronchus, so we're going backwards here, the trachea, your windpipe, and then it can come out your nose or your mouth. Now the ATP that is created is going to be made and used by the body. So the ATP, we will make it and we will use it. So looking back at this equation for cellular respiration, we do have the glucose that we get from our food, and we're going to talk a little bit in this section about food chains and food webs. So we are consumers. We must consume our glucose. We cannot produce it like plants do. The 6 oxygen we're going to get through inhaling through our respiratory system, so that's preferably your nose instead of your mouth, but you can also use your mouth, your nose, your windpipe, your bronchi, so you've got 2 tubes, um, your bronchiole tubes, so the tubes will get smaller, and then finally little sections called alveoli, where there are capillaries that allow you to exchange carbon dioxide and oxygen. So the yield here, 6 CO2, so 6 carbon dioxide, 6 water, and then 36 to 38 ATP. So this energy conversion of glucose into ATP occurs in the mitochondria, again, the powerhouse of the cell. This mitochondria, if you look at it, has this very large inner membrane. This large folded inner membrane is called the cristae, and then inside of it is a substance very similar to cytoplasm, very similar to the stroma of the chloroplast, called the matrix. So there are 3 stages of cell respiration. The first stage is glycolysis. It actually occurs outside of the mitochondria and the cytoplasm. Every organism does glycolysis, whether or not they have oxygen or they don't have oxygen. The second step, which is called the Krebs cycle, is going to occur here in the matrix. And the third step, which is called the electron transport chain, occurs in this inner membrane. So I'm going to attach a couple of video clips for you to look at the process of cell respiration and to look at your respiratory system.